Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are joining again the XR Today podcast. My name is Cureton, senior journalist for XR Today, and we're always bringing you the latest and greatest from the VR, AR, and XR industries. Today, we'd like to speak to Raghu Bathina. He is the CEO of Playin Games and Conquest VR. So it's a pleasure to have you on today. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Dimon. Happy to be here.
Okay, so we'll have a very interesting conversation about a use case for virtual reality, and it's your creation, Playin Pickleball. So, can you please tell us a little bit about Pickleball, what it is, and how people play it?
Sure. So pickleball is a fast growing, in fact, it's the fastest growing sport in America. And it's basically a mashup between table tennis and tennis. And it's basically played on a court the size of a badminton court. And you use paddles, much like this one, which are, really large. So it's difficult to miss the ball. And the ball is like a wiffle ball. And it's very simple to play. The scoring goes up to 11, just like in table tennis. And it's really the rage in the US, and I think it's going to grow globally as well. And partly the attraction is because it's so easy to pick up, and you can play it even if you're not like super physically fit. And so it's very popular among seniors, and even younger people are getting into it.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very interesting sport, and I think that a lot of people will be able to benefit from this quite a bit. I mean, I've always been a fan of things like table tennis and foosball and things like that. So it's quite interesting to see how this is done in virtual reality. So we'll start with the first thing. So after creating this, now what was your ethos actually for creating this game? And what was the call to action for a lot of the people who use it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the logic behind creating it was this trend and the popularity of the game in real life, and really the excitement or what we see around the game, having launched it now with our users, is that pickleball is the kind of game where you just can't get enough of it. It's like almost an addiction. People are playing it all the time. But for the time when you can't get to the court, or the weather it's winter here, it's too cold to play outside. Our game is where people come to play multiplayer with each other, and that's where we've seen a lot of uptake and a lot of excitement, really. So. And actually, it's actually going to probably help them improve their real game, just because it's the muscle memory that you build up, and we know VR has the power to do this. We're still at the early days with this game, but over time, I think you'll see people benefiting not only from just having a nice social experience, but also from a fitness and training perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the brilliant things about virtual reality is that a lot of people can stay active within the comfort of their own home. So it's kind of putting the gyms out of business, as we could say, but in a great
Yeah.
way. And there have been titles like Light Boxer, Beat Saber, things of that nature, which keep people fit and active. Um, so yeah, so you, for example, you have to select professionals in your workforce to develop this kind of game content. Like, how did you choose the team that helped to develop this title, and what skills did they bring to the company?
Yeah, you're right. Each experience we do in XR, whether it's augmented reality, virtual reality, is different, and not always can you use the same team. Here, I think there was a heavily focus on physics, and game dynamics, because one thing that I like to mention is when you're doing a sports game like pickleball, there's a reference point for the users, as opposed to if I'm doing an alien shooter game where I'm using, laser guns. There's not much of a reference point, so people won't criticize me and say, "Oh, my laser gun didn't, behaves differently in real life." Where in a sports game, people can be very critical about the physics and the spin and the feel and everything. So that was one of the things we spent a lot of time on, developing that talent, and finding that kind of talent to get the physics right. And we continue to tune, and make it better. Games like 11 table tennis, which is fantastic. It didn't happen overnight. It took some time. There's an evolution in how those games got better, and they're so excellent now. So one is hiring, getting the right kind of Unity developers who understand physics, game physics, racket physics specifically was one thing. The other aspect, of course, is the art part of it, where you have the right kind of people to create these environments, to create all the different assets that you need to make the environment realistic, the nets, the paddles, and make it enjoyable. And then the third area is on the audio side, is to make it realistic, give you that ultra realistic feel, everything from the environment sounds to the sound of the ball hitting the net, to the crowd. Everything makes for a more exciting experience. So those are three, and of course, I think the unsung heroes in a lot of this is the testing team that goes through and finds all the different issues and make sure the quality is up to par.
Yes, and it's very interesting, like assembling these teams to kind of make sure that it's a prime experience, especially for sports games. It's very
Yeah.
important because sports games are not necessarily a niche kind of, gaming title. Like there are a lot of different kinds of sports games out, but to make them authentic, playable, and enjoyable, combining all three of those really makes for a very, skilled and talented team to actually like put it all together. So yeah, commend you on that. And
Thank you.
experimenting with the game a bit, you can see also a bit of a social element to it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that's actually a very good observation. I think in real life, the reason pickleball has become so popular is the social aspect of the game. It's not as competitive as tennis. There's not that much running, and a big part is the proximity to the users. Most of pickleball is played at the net. And they have something in pickleball called a non-volley zone, which is 7 feet from the net, where you cannot hit volleys inside that zone. So you're not doing like really aggressive shots in this game as you wouldn't like in tennis. And so in that non-volley zone area, you're 14 feet from your opponent and about 5 to 10 feet from your partner. It's like you're actually pretty close together, and that kind of creates kind of a social interaction, which is very different from other sports. And I think replicating that in our game has really benefited quite a bit. And I think the reason people keep coming back and play matches every day in the morning and evenings is because they enjoy that social aspect, chatting with each other. And also we've created a spectator mode where you can watch matches and cheer your friends on, and then switch in and somebody else spectates, which is like real life. That's exactly what happens in real life when you're playing pickleball.
It's almost like the Wimbledon, games or anything like a major tournament or match that you could create at, on the fly to watch your
Yeah,
friends compete. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I wanted to ask maybe this question about it. So we see games like Playin Pickleball. We see other games like Lightboxer. A lot of people getting into the physical aspects of virtual reality. How do you see these sports apps evolving in the future? And do you think that you see them maybe as an efficient way to train athletes, as well as just overall aficionados?
Yeah, I think we're heading that way, and I say that because us, I would say veterans now in the VR space, we've seen how the headsets have evolved, how the visuals continue to get better, how the tracking continues to improve. Right? I think we can all imagine in a couple of years these headsets becoming a lot lighter, a lot sleeker, and with a big emphasis like that Meta is doing on mixed reality, where they call it, I think, meta reality, using their pass through cameras, where it's not only training and practicing in VR, but you can actually train and practice in real environments. Against virtual, you can actually have a virtual practice in your living room, for example, and I think definitely for, I actually play pickleball. In fact, I played today. And one of the big things in pickleball is how quick you are and how fast you react. And that hand-eye, especially because everything happens at the net, that hand-eye coordination, those are skills you can easily build in VR, right? And if you build it using a pickleball game, I believe that knowledge and experience is very transferable to the real world. So a long-winded answer, but yes, I do think it can benefit athletes, people who are serious about the game, or even amateurs who are playing it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of say, oh, yeah, I'll take 15, 20 minutes to try and get my heart rate up, stay in shape, stay fit, and, also to meet like-minded people on the pitch. So I think it's a really good chance for people to do that. Now,
Yeah.
for you, do you see yourself maybe branching out into other kinds of titles to kind of help people with their physical fitness needs?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, the concept of playing games is to come up with more games. I am not at liberty to talk about the next game that'll come out, but definitely for this year, I think it's going to be very heavily centered around pickleball, and making the game better, more accessible. We're just launching our first tournament. And we want to we're getting a lot of feedback from users. They want more multiplayer kind of capabilities, easier to set up matches, bring in some concepts from the real world, which are really fun and social, into the virtual world. And I think this is going to take us a good part of 23 to do this. Also bringing in some, as you mentioned, exercises, and there's this concept of mini games where you may not be playing the game of pickleball, but you could be doing pickleball exercises and drills, which help improve the game. But yes, we do have, there's a slate of games that we have planned for. Unfortunately, I can't talk about them right now. But part of the concept is that they'll have very similar menu systems, very similar onboarding systems, friend systems, and so on and so forth. So if you play pickleball, it'll be very easy for you to move to XYZ game, tomorrow when it comes out. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think about like some of the games that are coming out, they're a constant development, they're a constant improvement from the previous titles. So it's amazing what we'll be able to see in the future, what they'll be able to do with pass through, hand and eye tracking, and so on. So yeah, I commend you definitely for that. Now, moving into the idea of, you know, virtual reality for the enterprise. Now, do you see how companies or maybe enterprises could potentially benefit from these types of games? And if so, how so?
yes, yes, I definitely do. Enterprises, I think, are experimenting with things like Horizon Workrooms, which Meta put out as a way to do meetings inside an immersive space. In fact, we use it for our weekly meetings. And and that's an interesting use case. I think another way that enterprises can get their teams to meet each other, especially with remote working and distributed workforces, is through games like pickleball, which is becoming very popular in real life. I mean, you can actually do something which was not possible before, which is you could host a corporate-wide virtual pickleball tournament, where people from different regions, whether it's in the UK or in China or India or the US or South America, or even within a country in different cities, can actually get to interact with their colleagues in a very nice, social, fun way. And I think that breaks barriers, that improves communication between teams. It can be used for team building. I know so many people in companies who have teams that are distributed. They're not in the same office. How do you break the ice with people? It's difficult to do it over a Zoom call. I'd say even over Horizon Workrooms, it's interesting, but I think if you're playing a game, especially a social game, that could be a great way to for corporates to build camaraderie and have team building type exercises.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of a great way to do it, especially across big expanses of companies and teams where you have maybe like an Asia Pacific group, yeah, people in Europe, people in North America can all meet together at the same time, just to play
Yeah.
pickleball. And you'll see that
Yeah,
happening.
it's a real use case. We have people in Europe, New Zealand, in the US, and they can meet on the court and have a doubles match. And it actually works. It's pretty amazing where the technology is nowadays. And what's interesting is you can actually come up with a way so that you can make it so that you can have a company only tournament. So you're not playing random people. It'll only be people in your company who are in the tournament and can play each other, which is I think very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I have to take our team on to do that one day. We'll have to give it a go. So yeah,
Yeah.
anything else that you'd like to add? Maybe something you'd like to discuss about the direction of virtual reality, and especially maybe even with the new headsets that you see, like the Quest Pro, the HTC Vive Elite, Elite XR, and maybe even the Pico 4 Interactive Enterprise Edition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really good news. I tried the Pico 4 recently. The weight, the distribution, weight distribution, everything. It's such a pleasure. Um, and more and more is coming out about the Quest 3 and what features it's taking from the Quest Pro. I think it'll be interesting to see this transition from VR to AR, and it looks like mixed reality is going to be the stepping stone to get us there with these cameras, and what kind of interesting experiences we can build. I kind of like the way it's going in the sense that from a development perspective, we don't have to just make a massive leap over to AR like all of a sudden. It's kind of like you can offer a VR MR product. So like with our game, for example, you will have VR experiences like you're playing the game, you're doing doubles, and then you can do MR for training and fitness where you're in your room and you want to move a little bit more. See, one of the limitations of virtual reality and fitness specifically is you can't really run. As you know, it's very dangerous to run with a VR headset on. So what can you do? You can squat, you can jump, possibly, you can, swing your arms, you can do some rotation. But when you bring in mixed reality, you can actually do some level of movement beyond, you're not going to run like 50 yards, but you can definitely move, 5, 6 feet this way, 5, 6 feet that way without hurting yourself. I think that's exciting. I think that's going to be an exciting development that we're going to see very in the near term, right, within the next year.
Yeah, definitely. One day we'll have on our, latest edition of the MetaQuest 6 or something, and we'll play, mixed reality games in the same shared space, but, running on an actual court using the same kind of tracking tools that they use for the hand. So I think that's quite interesting how that could develop.
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, one interesting use case, if you think about it, is you can, like, if you wanted to play a professional, if you faced a professional on a court, it's actually dangerous, right? Because how fast they can hit and how they play. In this kind of environment, you could actually face them and really see, oh my goodness, this is how fast the ball comes when they hit, when they strike the ball, and how would you respond to it? So there's some fun applications that can come out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an excellent conversation. Thanks so much for your time today. And once again, we've been speaking to Raghu Bathina. He is the CEO of Playin Games and Concourse VR. We've been speaking about Playing Pickleball, which is an amazing new title that he's got for his company that I guess people can go and check out for themselves once it's on I think it's on the MetaQuest store. Is that correct?
It's actually on App Lab right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll share the link. You can share it with your audience. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Thanks so much again for your time, and we do appreciate it. So once again,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay, likewise, likewise. So once again, my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today, and we've been speaking about VR gaming. And thanks so much for joining us. If you'd like to follow more of our stories, please join us at the XR News hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys, and have a wonderful time. Bye now.